You're struggling in America. Is it still possible to pull yourself up?
I believe that my problems were somebody else's fault. I believe that America was so inherently racist that I didn't need to mainstream. And I believe that the poor were poor because the wealthy were wealthy.
I met with my friend Star Parker. You were on welfare for how long?
I was in and out 7 years, but 3.5 years consistently.
Did it ever occur to you to go looking for work? And if not, why not?
Why bother? Why would I go out and find a work when somebody else was willing to send me a check on the first of the 15th? My life going a little black hole. And that's where I was living when some people looked me in the eye and pointed their finger in my face and told me my lifestyle was unacceptable to God. And when they said that, I didn't even know there were churches, but there was something about their conviction that got my attention. I finally went to church with them and heard the gospel, and I changed. And I went back to college. I got a degree. I started a business, and now I run an organization today, and a nationally syndicated columnist and an author.
For me, Star Parker is the quintessential American. She draws on those classic American virtues that Tocqueville talked about: individual initiative, community, faith, to help herself and others. So is the wealth of America based on theft? Actually, no. The wealth of America isn't stolen, it's created. The ethic of conquest is universal. What's uniquely American is the alternative: equal rights, self-determination, and wealth creation. If America did not exist, the conquest ethic would dominate the world once again. America isn't the problem, America is the answer. Tocqueville knew that. I know it. And so does U2's Bono.
It's not a right-left issue. It's a right-wrong issue. And America has constantly been on the side of what's right. Because when it comes down to it, this is about keeping faith with the idea of America. Because America's an idea, isn't it? I mean, Ireland's a great country, but it's not an idea. Great Britain's a great country, not an idea. That's how we see you around the world, as one of the greatest ideas in human history, right up there with the Renaissance, right up there with crop rotation on the Beatles' White Album. You and me are created equal. That if we have dignity, if we have justice, then leave it to us, we'll do the rest. This country was the first to claw its way out of darkness and put that on paper. These aren't just American ideas anymore. There's no copyright on them. You brought them into the world. These truths, your truths, they're self-evident in us.
But now we turn to a political question. If America is a force for good, why are they trying to make us feel bad? Who's behind this? The shaming of America is not accidental. It's part of a strategy.
This becomes a contest of power. Now, power has always gone into two areas: those who have money and those who have people. We have nothing but people.
If an organizer doesn't have any idea what to do about it, he hasn't got any damn business being in there.
Do I make myself clear?
Who was Saul Alinsky?
Saul Alinsky was a man of the left, and very far to the left. To pin it down, he was a democratic socialist, meaning that he wanted the United States to become a socialist country, but he was willing to see that happen slowly, through the democratic process.
You tell them that I'm meeting with my staff and with the fight leaders on Friday at noon.
I spoke to scholar and author Stanley Kurtz, who's done extensive research on Alinsky.
Well, Alinsky wants to polarize. He wants the people he calls the haves to feel guilty, and he wants the people he calls the have-nots to feel resentful.
Alinsky perfected the art of the political shakedown.
I have on occasion remarked that I felt confident that I could persuade a millionaire on a Friday to subsidize a revolution for Saturday, out of which he would make a huge profit on Sunday, even though he was certain to be executed on Monday.
While finishing graduate school, Alinsky sought out an unusual mentor. Frank Nitti, Al Capone's number 2 in the Chicago mob.
Known as a thug or a hoodlum, also known as a racketeer and gangster.
Nitti took me under his wing I called him the professor, and I became his student. Nitty's boys took me everywhere, showed me all of the mob's operations, from gin mills and whorehouses and bookie joints to the legitimate businesses they were beginning to take over. Within a few months, I got to know the workings of the Capone mob inside out.
Alinsky saw up close the ease with which the mafia could extract money through theft, intimidation, and murder. But he figured out a way to do it without going to prison.
How is it the haves prosper while we struggle just to survive?
He wanted to build from the ground up by creating a sort of coalition of community organizations that he hoped to establish all across the country.
One thing I've come to realize is that any positive action for radical social change will have to be focused on the white middle class. For the simple reason that this is where the real power lies.
The American middle class is decent. It wants to live up to its own ideals. Alinsky knew that if he could show a gap between people's lives and their ideals, he could exploit their shame to gain power. Alinsky became the godfather in the art of using shame for political shakedown. But he needed an army of recruits to carry out the shakedown, and he knew where to look. The 1960s saw the birth of a new generation, alienated from its parents, alienated from America, right pickings for Alinsky. But first he had to straighten them out.
I have a hell of a lot more love than you have because I'm willing to go out and get corrupted for it. I'm willing to fight for it. I'm willing to stick my life on the line on it. And you're just willing to stick around and talk about love and hippies and not do a damn thing.
Alinsky wrote an instruction manual for this new army of shakedown artists. In Rules for Radicals, we discover that the mobster Frank Nitti was not Alinsky's only mentor.
The first radical known to man who rebelled against the establishment and who did it so effectively that he at least won his own kingdom. Lucifer.
Alinsky was an atheist. What could he possibly learn from the devil? Three things. Polarization.
Got to get away from all of this reconciliation jazz and all this friendship and all that kind of business.
Demonization.
They'd love to see all the Negroes in America living on their reserves.
And deception.
You do what you can with what you have, and clothe it with moral arguments.
Today, Alinsky's influence can be seen across academia, the media, and government. And his most famous disciple lives at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
I don't think there's any doubt but that Barack Obama really hasn't leveled with the American public about his political past. And this is probably the most dramatic example. Obama first encountered Alinskyite organizing at a series of socialist conferences that he attended when he lived in New York City as a young man. Those conferences touted Alinskyite organizing as the next big political wave and as the best way to bring socialism to America. And those same conferences touted Chicago as the place to find the very best Alinskyite organizers.
Clearly, Obama has mastered the Alinskyite strategy of deception.
We will keep this promise. If you like your doctor, you keep seeing your doctor. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Save a typical family an average of $2,500. I'll make our government open and transparent. We're building a transparent process. No matter what you've heard, if you like your doctor or healthcare plan, you can keep it. If you don't have insurance, you'll finally be able to afford it.
Alinsky would be so proud of Obamacare. It's a masterpiece of distortion and extortion. Here's the distortion. Obama gives the impression that he is colluding with us against the insurance companies. But in reality, he's colluding with the insurance companies against us. He's forcing Americans to buy insurance who don't want to buy it. And this makes the insurance companies very happy because it means more profits for them. With the corporate and the bank bailouts, it was the same deal. Obama embraced the bailouts. He recognized it was a way for the federal government to gain control over the